Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to our March Town Hall meeting. Glad to be here. Glad that you're here. You were probably expecting to see our CEO, Rebecca Olson, and she unfortunately can't join us today. So I'm filling in for her. You're going to have to make do with me, but I'll try to not drop too many balls for you. Bill Sheridan is the name. I'm Chief Communications Officer here with the Maryland Association of CPAs. So glad you could join us here on a Friday. Friday morning, it still is. Yes, I'm getting my time zones confused. I'm coming to you from the MACPA's Midwest Bureau, otherwise known as my home in St. Louis, Missouri. Yeah, glad you're here. We're going to get started here in just a couple of minutes. Give folks a minute or two more to join us. But in the meantime, we're going to start with this as we always do. If you're regular to our town hall meetings, you know the drill by now with our polling questions. Go ahead and chime in Conferences.io. If this is your first town hall meeting, first of all, welcome. Glad you could be here. This is just what we do with these meetings, right? We like to have you guys join the conversation by answering a few questions in our audience participation tool, Conferences.io. So head on over to macpa.cnf.io or just grab your phone, scan that QR code, go directly to the site. You can also click the link in the e-materials just below the video stream. So just a few polling questions for you. Positive focus. We always like to get the meetings off on a positive note. So tell us what's good in your life these days, right? That's what we're looking for. A little bit about where you work, what you do, for how long. We're also always interested in your ideas for future town hall meetings. So if there's something that you want to know more about, feel free to share ideas as well. And also this month, a big favor, if you would, be sure to answer that final question. How much time do you spend using AI? That comes directly from our guest today, Don Tomoff, and it ties directly to what he'll be talking about here in just a few minutes. But he'd love to get an idea of how much all of you are using AI these days. So please answer that question as well, if you could. So real briefly, let's just take a look at what folks are putting in there. Wow, look at all that good news. This is great. Going to be a grandfather for the first time at the end of April. Congratulations. That is a big life moment there, and best wishes on all of that. Our bathroom redo is almost done. That's huge. I've been through that myself, and I know the pain that you're feeling and how good it's going to feel on the other side. End of tax season is in sight indeed. Kudos to all of our tax professionals who are working so hard, and good luck with the last few weeks of that. Spring, yes, spring is here. A lot of good news about spring. The first day of spring was earlier this week. Going to Hawaii for the first time. Enjoy. I've only been once, and it's an amazing place. It really is. So I hope you have a great time. Vacation coming up. Happy Friday. Retired at the beach. Good for you. Enjoy. This is bucket filling stuff, as we like to say, right? This is how we always like to start off our meetings, by just sharing a little bit of good news and getting that meeting started up on the right foot. So thank you for sharing. We're going to keep all these poll questions open for throughout the meeting. So if you haven't had a chance to fill those out, feel free to go back and answer as well. A few other questions here. Where do you work? Looks like it's a race between retired and folks at private companies right now. There's a little bit of horse race going on there. Lots of sole practitioners with us, government, not-for-profit. So there's a good kind of cross-section of the profession with us today, which is great to see. Thank you. Your position or level at work. We've got a lot of senior managers and directors. And outside of that, boy, there's another horse race going on between retired, sole practitioners, C-suite, professional or individual contributors, whatever your role is. Glad you could be here with us. Thanks for taking the time. Top professional challenges over the last 6 months. There's a lot of them, right? You could almost throw a dart and find one that is really impactful. But right now it looks like cybersecurity, the need for new skills, upskilling, finding talent is always near the top of the list. Personal and team well-being. That always seems to be creeping closer and closer to the top. More and more people understanding the importance of wellness in what we do. So good stuff there. Also, we're going to be sending out an email after the meeting today. You'll have a link to all of this stuff, so you'll be able to see this stuff at your leisure after the meeting is over. If you had an other challenge, what would it be? If you said other on that slide before, here's some other challenges that are creeping in. Finding talent obviously is huge. Current employees don't want to accept change within the workplace. That's a hard one, right? That is a hard one. You get complacent in where you are and don't want to change. So how do you deal with that? Learning about AI, hey, you come to the right spot. We're going to be talking about that here in a few minutes. So thank you for sharing some of those. Stress, yes, lots of stress. That's where that wellness comes in, right? Good stuff there. And then future town hall topics. This is really kind of selfishly for us. We are always looking for impactful topics to present to you. To help you out during these town hall meetings. And so we want to know what you're thinking about and what's on your mind so that we might address those in future town hall meetings. So this is very, very helpful. We always go back and review this list as we're planning our year's worth of town halls going forward. So thank you for sharing those. Continue to pop those answers in there if you would. Now, this is that Don Tomhoff question that he posed for his part of the presentation. How much time do you spend with AI? Pardon me. And wow, the vast majority have not yet tried it. Not surprising. It's one of those things, right? That I mean, even I've used it a little bit, but I feel like I should be using it more than I am. It's out there. You understand that it's out there and that it's having a huge impact. But the hard part is making the time, right? And figuring out how you should proceed. And so hopefully we're going to offer some tips today that'll make that a little bit easier. Less than 20 minutes a day, another quarter of you are about there, and smaller amounts using it more, right? Up to 2 hours a day, just 3% of you. So glad that you were able to share that. Thank you for your honesty there. And as I said, Don's got a ton of information that I think is going to be really, really helpful for us going forward on how to use these new technologies. So thank you for your answers to those. As I said, we're leaving the poll questions open. Feel free to pop your answers in there if you haven't had a chance. Moving on, just a quick note of thanks to our preferred providers. We actually like to think of these folks as partners, right? These are the organizations, the relationships, the partnerships that allow us, the MACPA, to do a lot of the stuff that we do for our profession. And these partners are doing things that we believe can help you become more future ready and thrive in this ever-changing world. And it is ever-changing and will continue to do so. So please reach out to them. Find out more about what they do and how they can help you. You'll find out more about all of our preferred providers on our website. That's macpa.org, of course. And we are honored to have one of those partners with us today. The fine folks at CPA Charge have graciously stepped up to sponsor today's town hall. And with us today is Ashton Barksdale. Ashton is the relationship manager with CPA Charge. Ashton, thanks so much for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the intro. Good morning, everyone. I will not take up too much of your time. Like Bill said, my name is Ashton Barksdale. I am the relationship manager here at CPA Charge. CPA Charge is a professional, affordable payment solution made specifically for the accounting industry, with all the reporting tools you need for a fast and easy reconciliation. We are trusted by more than 150 professionals. And then my job, which is the best, is to be able to partner with all of the different state societies nationwide. So we have 42 state partnerships. One of my favorite, of course, is MACPA and the wonderful staff here. Through that partnership, you'll see on the slide, you actually get your first 3 months of no monthly fee. So there is a fee associated with using CPA Charge, but you get that fee waived for those first 3 months, and there's no contracts. So we want everyone to like the product. I know it's busy season, so if you are looking for a way to accept credit card payments, this is the platform for you. Thank you, Bill, again, and Dee. I appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day and a great weekend.
Ashton, thank you again for your partnership, for being here, for the information. Much appreciated as always. We love working with you guys and we're glad that you're here. Before we get to the topic at hand and Don Tomoff, I wanted to take just a couple of minutes to update you on what's going on in Annapolis these days. As most of you are probably aware by now, sales tax on services, on professional services, has kind of reared its ugly head in the General Assembly this year in the form of House Bill 1515, which is titled Sales and Use Tax Rate Reduction and Services. This bill is essentially identical to a bill that we helped defeat in 2020, right before the pandemic hit, if you recall. And this bill in particular calls for actually a reduction in the sales tax rate from 6% to 5%, but then extending that 5% sales tax to various everyday services that were not previously taxed, including the services that you provide a CPA. So needless to say, we are opposed to that. The reasons why are many, and we'll be sending you a copy of our position paper to explain it all in detail in a follow-up email after today's meeting. The good news here, boiling it all down, is it doesn't look like this is going to get any traction this year. The Senate and the House have both passed their versions of a state budget. The Senate approved Governor Moore's proposed budget last week, largely unchanged, and it didn't include new taxes. The House approved its version just yesterday, and that includes tax and fee increases to raise more than 1.3 billion annually, but not through applying those sales taxes to CPA services. So all of this is to address some pretty serious budget shortfalls that the state's going to be facing over the next few years. Lawmakers, of course, are going to be searching for every dollar they can find to close those gaps, right? Now, the House and the Senate's version of the budget, they differ in some pretty significant ways. Surprise, surprise. The House's budget hinges on tax and fee increases. The Senate's kind of prioritizes competitiveness and growth. So the differences between those two proposals will have to be worked out in a conference committee. That committee is not likely to meet before next week. So, but again, the good news so far is that neither of those plans at this moment include that broad-based increase in sales tax as proposed in HB 1515. Now, there are still 18 days left in the session. I guess anything can happen, but for now, we're hopeful, hopefully in the clear, knock on wood. The bad news of all this, and there is some bad news, is that although sales tax on services may be off the table for now, it is all but certain that the General Assembly will consider it as part of a revenue package of some sort next year in 2025. They still have some big shortfalls to make up. They'll be looking, as I said, for any and all ways to raise that money. So we're going to need your help. We're going to need you to stay vigilant, follow our legislative updates in our Connect communities on our blog. We'll keep you posted as developments warrant on this and all other important issues. We'll need you to make plans to join us at CPA Day next year. CPA Day in Annapolis. We do have a date for it. It's January 16th, 2025. Mark your calendars, save the date. Join us in person there. It's going to be more important than ever to turn out in force and make our voices heard on all this stuff. So, and maybe the easiest way of all that you can help us right now is to make a donation to our Political Action Committee. This is how we work with legislators and educate them on matters that are important to our profession and to those we serve, including sales taxes on services. You can give to our PAC by scanning that QR code or visiting macpa.org/advocacy. But we need your support right now more than ever. It's clear that lawmakers are going to be eyeing our profession, among many others, as a potential source of revenue. And every dollar that you can give to our PAC will make a huge difference in our ability to protect our profession and help enact reasoned legislation in Annapolis. So thanks for that. Hope I didn't screw any of that up. Our Director of Technical Services and Regulatory Affairs, Mary Beth Halpern, is lurking somewhere on the call. Mary Beth, if I got any of that wrong, don't hurt me and feel free to jump in. But otherwise, We will keep you posted. So stay tuned. Thanks as always for your support on all of this stuff. Now, on to our topic at hand, which is artificial intelligence. And unless you've been, living under a rock, you know how quickly this technology is advancing. What you might not know is how it can help you and what you can do to kind of raise your AI IQ, so to speak. So we've got Don Tomoff with us to kind of walk us through it. Don is the founder of Invenio Advisors. That's a consulting firm specializing in information management, process improvement, reporting, data analysis. He's been an early adopter of AI, really, and brings what I like to think of as kind of a natural curiosity to this stuff, always asking what can this technology do that's going to be helpful, not only to me, but to those that I serve, right? So he dove in early, looking for practical use cases for what AI can do for accounting and finance. And he's here today to kind of share what he's learned, a little bit of what he's learned. Hopefully that'll help you in your own AI journey. So with that, Don, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks for being here and welcome.
Thank you, Bill. I can go ahead and share my screen.
Yes, let me
Okay.
stop sharing mine.
All right, let's see. All right, hopefully everybody can see the presentation. As Bill mentioned, this is the topic, I think, of the last year. And Bill, I love the way you did describe my background. I am a CPA, MBA. I'm an instructor for the Business Learning Institute and AI CPA. Love working with MACPA and was honored to be able to talk about this topic with you guys today. The biggest challenge of explaining this topic is really to try and digest a really big issue or challenge, and that is, what do we do with AI, down to about 40 minutes. So there's going to be a lot of content we're going to go through. Some of it will go through really fast. The big takeaway for everybody listening to this is get this presentation. I always include a lot of links. There's some sections that we're going to go through, possibly demos. Not, just to show you certain things I've done. The big picture is, and I've been doing this along with my twin brother who works with me. We've been doing this for 16 months, and it really changes the way you work. I like to say that in my business, which is a small company, 3 people, it has enabled us to add about 2 people that are just AI associates, if you will, and what we can get done. So we're going to jump right into this, and everybody, I hope, answered the poll, and I think the last I saw was 65% haven't tried it yet. And surprisingly, that's actually better than, meaning that's a lower percentage than I find on a lot of these talks with accounting folks. And obviously that tells you something about our tendency not to change, okay? And nobody likes change, and we don't want to introduce something that we don't understand or we're concerned about the ramifications of. But it's the elephant in the room. And ChatGPT is a Gen AI tool. We'll explore that in a little bit. Everybody wants to know what we can do. Our clients want to know what we're doing. Our clients want help, etc. So I really think that moving the needle from I haven't tried it to I'm trying it on a consistent basis is important. And that involves mindset. You're going to hear this a couple times in this talk, but mindset's everything. If you work with it and it gives you a bad answer and you say, chuck it, I'm done, that's not going to help, okay? And you'll see it does do some funky things sometimes. So changing our mindset is imperative. I will point out that the images like this that you see were generated by ChatGPT and the DALL-E tool, DALL-E, simply by telling it in text what I wanted. And it's really not a big thing for accountants. I mean, that I can create images, but it's useful in certain situations. So what are we going to talk about today? What is this? how big is this, why it matters, of course, risks and limitations, and then learnings and what you can do. And time, given time, we're going to show a few demos. If we don't get to a lot of the demos, you can click on the links in there and see the things we're talking about. So we'll at least talk about idea-wise what I'm presenting. What I will say is, when you dive into what is this, I mean, it's all everybody hears is AI. It's going to take our jobs, etc. I don't believe that's true. It's going to enable all of us to do a lot more and a lot better than what we've done before. And that's really the goal. So if you're a staff person, an employee, young manager, your workflow is going to change. If you're a leader, if you're a partner, a senior person in industry, you need to understand what your teams can now do. So what is this? I went right to AI, and you know what? You're not seeing the presentation. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong screen. This is our agenda. What is this? I went right to AI and asked, explain generative AI to a high school student. And it's an artificial intelligence that can create new things, images, music, or videos. In our world, in the accounting world, we're concerned about, meaning where I see the biggest benefit, and it's not Don's opinion, it's what everybody says, is create text and coding. Okay, so how can it do that? And we don't really have a heavy use for images, video, and music, but it can do that too. So that's Gen AI. What is ChatGPT? Okay, again, to a high school student, it's a large language model, okay? And think of it as a computer version who can understand and talk using text. And this is where the concept of an assistant comes in. And the idea that I have an assistant right there that can help me do whatever I need. And it doesn't have the nuances or the understanding or the knowledge of the intricacies of the accounting profession that we might have, but it's really good at just giving you a start and giving you a perspective that you can use to do things better. So when I talk about Gen AI, there's really hundreds of tools, but there's really 4 that people talk about. ChatGPT, that's the big one. It's owned by OpenAI. If you're a Microsoft Office user, Copilot, Microsoft Office 365 Copilot is based on OpenAI ChatGPT 4 model. Next one is Claude. And I put these 2 here because everybody likes to know, where do I spend money on these tools? Because you could spend money on every tool. You don't want to do that. You want to figure out what works best for you and use it. So Claude AI is another one that's really moved up in the last, I'd say, month, really well to compete with ChatGPT. And I mostly use Claude for summarizing documents and writing drafts of things that Bill and I were talking earlier. You want to write it in your voice. You can give it your content and have it write something separate in your voice, and it does a really great job of mimicking that. Copilot, which I mentioned, Microsoft's version. Some of you may be using Copilot in Microsoft Office. It's available now. That's AI that's built right into the tools, and I believe that's going to become prevalent in every organization. The beauty is you can work with Copilot, you can work with your data. On ChatGPT and Claude, those are public models. I wouldn't be putting confidential data into those models, and we'll explain that a little bit. And then lastly, Gemini, which is Google, and this is another big competitor. If you're a Google Suite user, or Google Workspace it's called now, you're going to be probably considering Gemini, and it is a robust, very good tool. So all 4 of these are prevalent tools, and there's hundreds of others. Okay, so it's really a challenge. you'll hear most about these four as the big picture Gen AI tools. This is a summary that I've put together way back in March that summarizes what Copilot in Office can do. It's worth, you can get it through the QR code, or you can click that link when you have the document and get access to this. It's worth spending some time with just to understand what the potential capabilities are to have this in your toolkit. This is an image from Ernst & Young, and I love the focus on where does GPT fit inside large language models, fit inside Gen AI, and ultimately artificial intelligence. Gen AI, or GPTs, is just a really small segment of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has been around for years. But why is this different? This is different because every person today can access this. For $20 a month, you can sign up for a pro version of ChatGPT and have capabilities beyond anything that you can imagine. That's really the what's in front of us, and that's what makes it unique. We don't have to wait for anybody to give it to us. We can just go out and take charge and learn this tool on our own. Again, typical applications, text generation and code generation are the big ones that relate to accounting. I talked about it being your assistant. This is actually a picture of what my desktop looks like a lot of the time. I'll have Excel open, I'll have ChatGPT right to the left of it, and I'll have ChatGPT on my iPad. So it's going. And when I do something on my iPad, it'll pop up in the computer screen, and I can go and use it writing formulas, whatever it is I do. So we'll talk a little bit about using mobile, but being mobile and having it accessible really will help you upskill your capabilities, just because it's easy to get to and use.
Hey, Don, I got a quick question that came in that
Yep.
I think might be kind of like lurking in the background for a lot of folks as you're talking about this. But
Yep.
how should a CPA's professional skepticism kind of be factored in when adapting AI in various scenarios?
That's an excellent question, and we'll touch on this in a little bit, but the idea of risks and limitations, skepticism, and obviously the CPA, we have to always challenge what the LLM or ChatGPT, the large language model, is giving us. And there's two comments that I make later, but one is I always, don't trust it and verify, which we've talked about, Bill. It's
Yeah.
don't trust what it gives you. You have to know what you're talking about. So personally, I won't ask it tax questions and send those over to Bill as here's your answer, because I don't really know. I'm not a tax person. So that's key number one. Key number two is stay in your lane. I use that phrase to just say, focus on what you know, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Great question, though, Bill. Thank you. And to that point, interrupt. If there's questions you guys have, put them in the chat. Bill will interrupt, and it's important that you guys are keeping up and learning. If you have questions, absolutely bring them up.
And
So-
I'm sorry, Don, there's one more,
Yeah.
but it refers to something you just talked about, the four big tools that you were talking about there.
Yep.
The question was, should I pay for both ChatGPT and Copilot? Or does one do everything that the other would do, and I can just focus on one of those?
That's a great question. I think it depends on your use case. I mean, the beauty of Copilot is you can use it inside Office, and you can work with your confidential data, company data, et cetera, because it will just reach out to OneDrive or SharePoint and use your data. ChatGPT won't do that. The difference is Copilot is within Microsoft Office, so you're not really getting the full breadth of what you could use Gen AI for. Okay, so it's
Gotcha.
it's give or take, but it gets what you're comfortable with, I guess is what I would say. So this is what ChatGPT looks like on your desktop. Just You have these things. We're going to touch on this. Most of you will not have heard of custom GPTs. And I'll mention these later, but the one thing I would point out, you need a ChatGPT Pro license to have custom GPTs. But as a finance team or a public accounting firm or an industry organization, creating these GPTs are like mini apps that you can create with ChatGPT. They are absolutely the biggest win about being on the Pro version, and hopefully we'll show you a little bit about that. So my one tip takeaway is get on the Pro version. Okay, it's $20 a month. I always recommend sign up, take 3 months, and commit 3 months to using it. You know, exploring it, tapping the pipe, I like to say, and I'm confident you will not go back. So when you do searches and you get threads, your threads will end up over here, okay? And you can collapse this little item here collapses it so the full screen disappears. When you
Don, I'm not sure if you've advanced a slide or not. I'm not seeing. That.
thank you.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Perfect.
Yep, I'm sorry. Thank you, Bill, for the
No,
heads
you're
up.
good. You're good.
Okay, so these are your custom GPTs. These are the chat threads. So these are prompts that I've done, and you can see how I've used it. I want to improve a prompt. I want to write an Excel formula. I used an index match. I used an image to write an index match function. So if you're familiar with that as part of Excel, you can use images if you're on the Pro version and ask it to write a function or write a formula for you. This is where you put the prompts, and you can, once you put the prompt in, you hit the little send button and it does its thing. And then over here is your account info. Within organizations, it's worth pointing out that you can get a team workspace. I don't confuse that with Microsoft Teams, but a team workspace. And in that, you can use data that is confidential because it does not get put into the large language model. Okay, at least that's what ChatGPT says. So how big is this? This is an image of NVIDIA, which is the stock that the company that owns and sells most of the chips that are used in AI. And this is from January of last year to today. And you can see it's just been a steady uphill, and then it took off at this point. Well, this doesn't really do it justice. It's better if we have some context. So I laid it across, comparing it to Microsoft and Apple, and you can see Microsoft is up, or Apple's up 30% over that time period, and Microsoft's up 79%. Those are very good numbers in a year and a half. Well, NVIDIA's up 497%. And if you know anything about investing, stocks are valued based on growth opportunity. So everybody is looking at this and saying, the opportunity is in AI. And by the way, this is what's called a base 100 price line chart. Every company gets started at a static 100 point and goes forward. It's a common analysis in financial analysis. It takes some effort to put this together, but I did this entirely with ChatGPT and the advanced data analysis tool. And when I say I want a base 100 line chart, it just takes the data that I gave to it and gives that to me. It's that powerful. And when you look at market cap, which really puts it into perspective, you can see that their market cap has grown to 2.32 trillion, and they're bigger than all these companies combined at this point. So that's how big AI is. This is a quick clip I want to show you of Mark Cuban. He was asked the question about AI, so let's take a listen to that. Bill, tell me if you can hear this.
How do you see this new AI era?
Okay.
It's a beast. There's only two types of companies in this world, Morgan, those who are great at AI and everybody else. If you don't know AI, you are going to fail. Period. End of story. Whether you are an employee, you're going to have to understand it, how it impacts your job or how you can use it to be better at your job. Same if you're a student, the same thing. And if you're a CEO, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to get my tech guys to understand it and educate me on it. You have to understand it because it will have significant impact on every single thing that you do. There's no avoiding it.
How do you
that's kind of a wake-up call. And I think that's the point of it. He's not alone in that thinking, and I think anybody who started using it will attest that this is where things are going. This is a blog post from Seth Godin, and he was talking about, things are slow to get realized that they're going to be significant. And I love the line he said here where he said, I didn't have the guts to ask what I was missing. One of the challenges, and Bill mentioned how I'm an early adopter, I always look and have through my entire career looked at what's going on and ask myself, what am I missing? Really, really trying to educate myself. If this is supposedly a big deal, why don't I feel like it impacts me? Because as much as we like to believe CPAs are different, et cetera, we're not. We're knowledge workers and we have to adapt. So I wanted to point out I did this analysis of Netflix and Amazon, and I said, okay, if you remember back to when early 2000s, 2003, 2004, Netflix and Amazon were relatively new on the scene. Nobody really got it. We looked at Amazon, we said, okay, they sell books. They're gonna who buys stuff on the internet? Nobody's going to do that. Netflix in 2004, I had a conversation with someone who, and I'm quoting, if I'm going to want a movie, I'm going to drive to Blockbuster. That's what I'm going to do. Well, we look back on that and just kind of chuckle at how silly that sounds today. Okay. And this is the return on $1,000 from 2005 to today. So look at Netflix, 38,000%, Amazon, 7,700%. It's crazy. Well, this growth, which took 20 years, everything that I'm seeing says this is the kind of growth or more that we're going to expect in the next 5 years for AI. So what's happening is it's crazy fast with how this stuff is changing. We don't have a 20-year window. And this chart was created 100% by ChatGPT, and this annualized return, I asked it to, once it did this chart, just to give me the annualized return. And that's one of the examples I include in there, and it did it. That's the power of what we're dealing with. So why it matters. This is a study done by BCG, Boston Consulting Group. They took a project, gave it to a group of their professionals. Part of them used AI, the other part of them didn't. And they found that experienced professionals were able to improve their performance by 40%, and the quality of the work increased. So I always say, think about this. In your firm, in your organization, think about this is the potential of what we are potentially looking at. Many people think it's more than this. And I wanted to show you one more clip here.
Once you understand at a fundamental level what AI enables, you look at business totally differently. Like every business just looks inefficient to you. And it's like, it's almost a curse because you look at any company, you're like, oh my God, there's such a better way to do that. And that's where I think the future of business is like, you're going to have people, like I'll pick on law firms. You're going to have partners in law firms who are going to say, there is no way this law firm is ever going to adopt this stuff. It's too much of a threat to our way of living, our billing models, everything. But I believe in it as the future of the legal industry. I'm going to leave and start a smarter law firm. And I think you can do that in every industry right now. So you're gonna have all these AI native companies that just build smarter from the ground up. They need fewer financial resources, human resources. And I think that's the opportunity for a lot of people. I think entrepreneurship is going to explode in the next decade. Once you
So that's really the opportunity once you get into AI that happens, you realize, and he talked about law firms. Take that thinking and apply it to accounting firms. There's absolutely no reason that people aren't going to figure out we can do this way better using AI, leveraging AI, using AI to augment our capabilities. And if they're not going to be able to do it in the firms or the companies they're in, they're going to go do it themselves. Okay, it's just the nature of opportunity is going to be pursued. So consider the following: client expectations and service needs opportunities. You're going to have, your clients are wrestling with the same things that you guys are. Okay, absolutely, without question. If you aren't getting the question today of how you're using AI to help us or better serve us, you will be getting it. That's a question I'm starting to get, and they want to understand. Not that they're going to, like, I want lower fees. They want to understand how you're using AI because they're hearing about it every day, just like we are. Stakeholder expectations. Your firm leaders, your company board, whatever it is, they expect you to be taking advantage of the tools to do everything we do better, if that's possible, or expand on how we can change what we do. Recruiting and retention of the team. I think this is one of the key items. This is a big issue in the accounting profession, the pipeline, the talent shortage, etc. If you're not moving and giving people the tools that they can use and upskilling your people, they are going to leave and go where they are going to get that capability. And if you're recruiting, they want to come to an organization that's going to be progressive and using these tools. That's just a fact. Okay, I think that's everybody that's in the workforce. Workflow changes everywhere. Every workflow that you can think of today is going to change. You're going to have AI built into all the tools you use today. Practice management, we talked about Microsoft Office, everything. It's just changing, and adapting to that is going to be critical. So change management is huge. And then lastly, upskilling. 65% haven't tried it yet. We have a big hurdle to get through to say, not only do we need to move from I haven't tried it, we need to move to I'm proficient, and our people are proficient in this tool or tools. Bill, any questions before I jump into this?
We have a couple of them. One is really looking forward to some of the practical applications that you have, and I know you're going to get to those here in a couple of minutes. Who's fact checking AI? They say, won't an answer tomorrow differ from yesterday's or today's answer?
It could. If you ask the same question twice, it'll give you two separate answers. And no answer is going to be exactly the same, because this is just a statistical large language model that's going out and predicting, in theory, what the next response is going to be. But you should be fact checking. So let's dive, and that's good. Was there any more?
There was one that they were asking concerns about cybersecurity connected to AI.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I think you were going to address some of that as well.
Yep. Let's talk about risks and limitations.
Perfect.
So there are scary risks and ramifications to this. Okay, I've given you a couple links that I think are worth going through. Cybersecurity is one. Using it to control cybersecurity is another side of that. So it's not just necessarily the bad, but there's no question your bad characters are going to be trying to use this to their advantage. Absolutely no question. Just understand that is a fact. So on the large language models, ChatGPT, etc., don't put any confidential information into those models. You don't take your client data and put it in there and say, hey, do this analysis for me. As you noticed, I did the analysis using public company data. If you're in a public company environment, it's really easy. All the data is public in SEC filings, etc. So this is a good article too, the risks of using chatbots like ChatGPT in an organization. The knowledge base, if you're not on the current, or the pro plan, it's not current. It isn't like you could go, hey, what was the score of the Cleveland Browns game where I'm from last weekend? It's not going to know. It's going to know dated information. I think the latest update was through 2022 at some point. Another reason, if you use Copilot, it does browse the web, okay? Even the free version of Copilot, which is in their Edge browser, okay? Don't trust it. This is, to who's going to fact check it? We've got to be fact checking everything, okay? It will make things up. And you'll read articles and things about people, lawyers presenting cases in arguments that are completely bogus because they went to ChatGPT and got them. Don't do that, okay? Always test the results. You're going to get hallucinations. You absolutely will. More so on the free version than on the pay version. It's just better. If you have the GPT-4 is the pay version on ChatGPT, 3.5 is the free version. Understand the topic you're inquiring about. This is where I was talking about staying in your lane. Okay, just make sure you understand what you're talking about. And critical thinking and challenging it is essential. What's the number one risk? Doing nothing. And that's really what I hope you take away from today. I want to move past, I haven't tried it, to I need to get serious. We're coming off a busy season. Hopefully things are slowing down. We can start digging into this and figuring out how you can use it to your advantage. So anybody who knows Tom Hood has probably heard the term risk of not investing. Okay, and I think this is a huge one. And when I say risk of not investing here, it's not investing in upskilling your team, not taking the time personally to understand and learn what this does. So learnings and what you can do, and I'm going to zip through this so I can get to the demos. 16 learnings that I've learned. I put this together with my brother. These are all pretty self-explanatory. We've talked about most of them. Use responsibly. Develop an AI policy is absolutely one you've got to put into place. If you can imagine it, you can likely do it. And that's just thinking, let me try this, okay? And we really have no context of understanding how that works until you start doing it, okay? Critical thinking and analysis, don't trust and verify. Never trust it, and always verify what it gives you, and then stay in your lane or in your domain knowledge. This is a quick image on what happened over a year, and understanding in the Gen AI is just a baby. This thing's going to absolutely change dramatically in the next few years. One way to think about it, this is a slide that my twin brother and I put together. I would suggest if you're interested in this topic, follow us on LinkedIn. We have a hashtag TwinsTalk that we talk a lot about this. But how do you think about using this tool? Focus on black or white. I want to write an Excel formula. I want to draft the start of a document. I want to review how this formula works. I want to review this PDF document that I've got on tax code. So it's black or white. It's either going to do it or it's not. It accelerates those types of things. I make the comment frequently that if you're using Excel and you take more than 30 seconds to write any complex formula, it's on you, because it doesn't take that long anymore using ChatGPT. Then it enables what we should do. And here I'm specifically in the accounting profession. I like to say, how many of you actually document your workbooks the way you believe or you know you should? The formulas, the flow of the workbook, the automation routines that I might be using. We don't, okay? If you're honest with yourself, we don't do it because it takes too much time and we have things to do. And that's all of us in our entire career. Well, now we can do it because it doesn't take any time at all. And then lastly, it allows what we can't do. And these are things we can't even think of until we start using it. Can I automate this? Can I write a macro routine to do this? Can I write a Google script that will automate this? Things we've never even thought about because we don't know how to do it, we now have the ability to do. I'm going to jump through going mobile. I just would recommend you go with the mobile on your devices. Easiest way to get at it. Okay, what it can do, and you all have links to this. I grouped this under accelerate what we do, enable what we should do, and allow what we can't do. So research. This is a real example. A financial advisor reached out to me and said, I really want to try and educate a client on why they should have a CPA in the mix along with me as part of the team. So this is the actual prompt. You're to act as a financial advisor and wealth planning expert, a young professional couple, new clients of mine, and I want to help them understand bringing a CPA into the mix as part of their financial tax and estate planning advisory team is a prudent idea. They are somewhat skeptical. I would like to compile a document that will help them gain a sense of why this is valuable. So ChatGPT summarizes an outline of here are things that you should touch on. And it's a pretty nice outline. I go, okay, the next prompt is this is a great outline. Please go ahead and draft a document I can use as a starting point. I want to emphasize that the CPA will work as a partner with me, the financial advisor, to best manage their financial life and wealth management. And it generates a start of a document that you could use. And that takes about 60 seconds, okay? Summarizing documents. The days of actually reading a PDF or a document from scratch are over. You just throw it into ChatGPT on the pro version, you upload the document. I'm going to open up. This was an E&Y Gen AI report, and I said, the prompt is you are to act as a document review expert. Please summarize the key insights from the following document. And I explain how I wanted to explain it and upload the document, and it gives me exactly what I wanted. Here's your introduction. Here's the impact. And it gives a couple sentences related to each one. So without doing anything other than uploading the document and giving it the prompt, I now have what I call a flyover on this document. And this is every document that I deal with anymore. And it just gives you a sense before you dive into the actual content yourself. Writing complex, I'm going to jump right to this custom GPT. You only can use a custom GPT if you use the pro version. But this is one I actually developed, and it's showing the same document where I use the prompt, and I just say, let's get started, and it gives me all these choices. This is something I developed. So within your organization, what tool like this can eliminate this prompting effort, essentially, that you have to go through? Okay, that's what a GPT, one example of what a GPT does. Okay. And you cannot access this link if you're not on Pro.
Quick question for you, Don.
Yep.
This is interesting, and it goes back to what I've noticed with all of these tools. Framing the question is key, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's what a huge skill in learning to use AI is just learning to ask better questions. So the question is, how long did it take for you to get to the point where you were intuitively knowing what type of information to input into there?
Well, one of the things you'll find as you do this is you'll want specific, like the structure of the response. I want the article, you know what, let me go here because this is a great example. This is where I have it, another example where I have it explain documenting an Excel formula. The prompt, this prompt that I use took a while to refine. Okay, so I started it with just you are to act as an Excel formula expert, but look at, here, I want it structured as follows, boom, boom, boom. And what I'd recommend to anyone here, steal this prompt. If you want to understand an Excel formula, steal that prompt. You have access and put it somewhere and use it, okay? ChatGPT says understood. I paste in the formula. It gives me exactly what I wanted. Purpose of the formula, the benefits of the formula, functions used, the actual function explanations, and links to resources where I can learn more. The reason I like to use this example is I'm constantly looking at client workbooks. This is a tool. If I'm an auditor or I'm looking at a new workbook that somebody gave me, I'm using this. I'm using something like this to streamline my life. But that prompt is absolutely critical, okay? And to that point, when I do it in a custom GPT, and if you're on the pro version, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share this GPT with you. This is a GPT that I developed called Excel Formula Dominator. And all you do is say, okay, show me what my options are. It says, explain an Excel function, explain an Excel formula. I pick 2. That whole prompt you saw is built into the background of this GPT. And it gives me pretty much exactly the same function documentation. So it's a great way to document your workbooks, and the prompting, what you're referring to, Bill, as prompt engineering, is absolutely huge. As you do this organizationally, create a prompt library. And it's key. So
and you can get almost as detailed and granular in those prompts as you want, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
If you just said, explain this Excel formula to me and paste it in the formula, it would give you a really nice document, but it wouldn't be precisely what you wanted. Okay, I'm going to skip over. This is what the Excel Formula Dominator GPT looks like. Okay, I showed you that. Excel formulas, this is a YouTube video, shows you exactly how to prompt it to write these Excel formulas. Watch this. This is one of my favorite uses. And I'm going to skip over this. That's the actual prompts to do what I showed you here on the Netflix versus Amazon. Lastly, solve problems. Find problems. They're all over in your organization, and practice, 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 practice. Okay. One of the big challenges, if you have a network drive, etc., that I like to share is finding files is a pain, or unless you know exactly where they're at. Well, a dynamic folder directory list alleviates a lot of that effort. You can request use of this or access to this. I'll share you a link. It's an Excel file that automates generating a list. The only thing I would leave you with is, and the reason it's in this presentation, this was entirely developed by ChatGPT, meaning with me. I had to create the prompts. I had to get the automation and get it done, but it was built by using ChatGPT. And a year and a half ago, it would have been impossible. I wouldn't know how to do most of this stuff. I'm not a coding person. So this is a useful case to take a look at and get a feel for what is possible. You guys, we are right on the money. I love this quote. I've never met let's replace creative with an accounting professional that wants to take 2 hours to do something they could achieve in 2 minutes or 2 seconds. The goal is really to challenge yourself on what you can get done. And you guys take today as step 1. It's a big initiative to get started on. I'm glad you're here today, and I hope take this presentation and use it. And thanks for the time.
Don, thank you. This has been fabulous information. Just as a reminder to everyone on the call, you're going to get a copy of Don's slides in PDF form. You'll be able to click on all of those links. There's a ton of information in here, really useful stuff, especially around those practical applications. And if you want to take just 30 seconds, Don, I knew we'd get a question like this, but
Yeah.
to get into kind of the existential area for a second, the question is, aren't we at risk as humans of becoming more ignorant as people through the use of this. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
You know what, Bill? Thank you for asking that question. It's a great way to wrap up. I get that all the time. This is going to make us lazy. I firmly believe and can tell you from 16 months, it will make us better. If you take the time, it will give you the formula you need. But it also tells you exactly what it's doing and why it's doing it, like you've never had access to before. So all of a sudden, and I'll use index match as an example, if I ask most accountants what an index match does, they'll go, I don't know, I use index match, some might once in a while. Then they'd go off looking, okay, what's the index function do? What's the match function do? Well, when you see that function used and then ChatGPT explaining it, bang, you got it, okay? That's really the power to be able to go from not knowing anything to actually learning it is crazy fast. So I would argue you're learning if you want to learn.
Great insights. And yeah, with that, we are out of time. Don Tomoff, thank you for being here and for your insights and knowledge. Thanks to all of you for joining us here on a Friday morning. Certainly
Thank you,
appreciate
everyone.
it. Yeah, have a great weekend. And we'll, as I said, look for that email follow up with the link to Don's presentation. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Thanks, Bill.